how one pawn, this pawn actually, can impact all of these pieces. This pawn is not just weak, it's double weak. Both players are playing for one pawn and one square. This situation commonly occurs in the Sicilian defense. The e-pawn thrusts forward to gain time, initiative, and take control of the game. I love playing this as black. However, there's one key drawback. This pawn, a backwards pawn. It's sitting right here on an open file. It's got no pawns to defend it. Additionally, the square right in front of it is also very weak with no pawn reinforcements. So you get two weaknesses for the price of one. I'm playing white in this game, so my mission is going to be to pile up on that d6 pawn. I'm eventually going to win it. Then I'm going to trade off all the pieces and take my A or my B pawn, make a queen, call it a day. That's my plan anyway, but my opponent has something to say about it. If I were in his shoes, I would arrange all of my pieces in order to allow my pawn to move from d6 up to d5. If I'm able to make that pawn push, I get rid of both of those weaknesses and I still have all the advantages of initiative and space. Let's see how it plays out. So my opponent here develops, he's getting ready to castle. I immediately go after this knight. This knight is defending this d5 square, so potentially getting ready for this pawn push. So I want to put as much pressure as I can on the d5 and the d6 square, and getting rid of this knight is one potential way of doing that. I do trade off that. Right here I play this d5 move. I'm preventing d5 from being played, but I think this move's a little bit premature. If instead of that I would have played, let's say, rook to d1, I'm putting two pieces defending here. He'd have to move his bishop back, and then I'd be able to attack it and either chase it away. I'm threatening to win this d6 square, so this d5 move right there is a little bit premature, but that is what I do. The bishop attacks my queen, I move forward, the black bishop gets developed, I castle, and now I'm lining up here. I am putting more pressure indirectly onto that d6 square. And right here, this a5 move, I'm actually playing a3 right here to prevent this knight from landing right there. The computer likes a4 a little bit better just to completely prevent a4 in the future, but this is what happens. I end up trading off, and then I land c4 here to put a bind on this d5 square. I don't want to allow this pawn to move forward and trade off that weakness, but it does create a weakness for myself. Now this c4 square is potentially not going to be able to get reinforced, particularly because my opponent plays a4 right here, chasing my knight away, and now I can't play b3 to defend it. So my opponent has a weakness, I have a weakness. Let's see how it plays out. He pushes forward right here. The computer actually wants b4 right here, and then this kind of crazy thing where I've got all of these isolated pawns, and we'll see how it goes. But after, let's just say, this gets traded off, now his rook's coming over here on f2. I don't really like it too much. I end up not playing that. Instead of that, I play f3. What I want to do is, if this happens, and now I'm continuing to defend d5. He does get this cool check in and forces my king over to the corner. I move my rook right over. You might be wondering why he doesn't just attack here, but I'd be able to, at the very least, counterattack here, and it's looking like his queen is almost trapped in some lines. It's not actually the case, but it's just not a good idea to capture that, so he goes here. I defend the b2 square and get my knight back. This game's opening up a little bit. He's getting his rook behind d6, hoping to be able to get rid of that weakness. I play g3 right here. It's a weakening move, but I am really not liking this bishop really taking up all of my space. I can't double up here. I can't double up here. And so what I end up doing is forcing his bishop back with my pawns. His rook is now infiltrated. I go here, I cut off the rook from the defense of the queen and plan to put more pressure here on to d5. I go here and I'm attacking the bishop. My opponent again finds this great check with all these weakening moves. This forces a queen trade, otherwise it's going to end up being checkmate. I end up retaking d5 with my rook instead of the pawn. Why? Because I still want to attack and exploit this backwards pawn. I go here, we trade off, and I do see with trading off and allowing him to get rid of his backwards pawn, he's not going to be able to defend this a4 pawn. So I go ahead and I go after it. I'm going to go up a pawn into this endgame. Let's see if I'm able to win it. And I am able to gain that one. And right here, I go after this pawn. Best for my opponent is to capture this a3 pawn. I capture this e4 pawn because in an endgame, an outside pawn is way stronger than an inside pawn. The outside pawn, the king's going to have to run all the way over here to the side to be able to capture it, versus my king, I just got 2 squares to get it. So this pawn right here on a3 is a much larger asset than this pawn here on e4. My opponent, though, decides to push this forward. I push my pawn forward, and right now, with that mistake, I am able to gain this pawn and eventually lock that down. I've got 2 passed pawns, and it's just too much. My pawns are too far advanced, and his king is tied down. I do end up here forcing this, and the game ends. I'm putting together a pawns ranking list of the most important pawn concepts to know. This concept of backwards pawns is actually 3rd on the list of 7. Please subscribe and check back next week where I go over 2 additional items to help you gain elo quickly. Have a great day and Happy New Year.